Makers Show is hosted by Tony Gaffestone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
It is showtime, everybody. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Tony Gaffestone. I am the founder and executive director of Bravemaker. My pronouns are he, him. I'm sitting in our studio in Redwood City, California, in front of a yellow background with pink and blue signs that say Brave Stories Change the World. You are the story. I'm super glad to be with you today. I am a writer, director, and actor, and I love Fridays so much because of the conversations that we get to have. And I'm always with my partner in collaboration, Christina Jackson.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? Yeah, this is awesome. We got another fantastic show. And, back in the green room, she confessed this is her first podcast. So that's really amazing. So I am coming to you from Dublin, California in the East Bay here, just 30 minutes east of San Francisco. My pronouns are he, she, they, and I'm rocking a little Bruce Lee look today. I'm calling this Bruce Leisha, and I'm in my studio. I'm in front of a green plant wall with some butterflies. I'm in the yellow and black Bruce Lee look, if you remember that from the movies. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for today.
On the screen, it says Christina Ray Jackson Instagram. One of my favorite things is to point people to the continual mashups that Bruce Leisha over here is continually doing. So before we bring in our guest, who's not just our guest today, she's my childhood friend from 2nd and 3rd grade elementary school.
So wild.
We're gonna chat about that. We always start the show with this one question: how have you been braving your way toward your creative goals? We ask that question. Why? Because it takes one little decision, one little thing at a time. So we like to keep each other accountable, as well as all those watching and listening, to do something every week to move your goals forward. So, Christina, what are you doing to brave your way toward your creative goals?
Well, last year marked the 80th anniversary of Bruce Lee. And so I'm using Bruce Lee's philosophy to brave my way this week. So I'm going to read two of my absolute favorite quotes from him. The first one is, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. And the second one, this might be like one of the most famous ones, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. So that is how I am braving my way this week, with a little philosophy from Bruce Lee. And Tony, how have you been braving your way this week?
Thank you for asking me that question, as I took too long to bring out your link as usual. But I have been braving my way this week by working toward the feature film Last Chance Charlene. Many of you have probably heard me talk about it, but tonight we're doing a Zoom event to talk to potential funders and donors to help make the film. And we have some really, really cool news. We cast a actor for the film that I can't say publicly yet because no contracts have been signed, but
all right, we are going to wait for Tony to come back with that announcement. Man, he really likes to build the anticipation. You like how he just cut out right there, right as he was going to announce the inclusion of some phenomenal actor, which I'm part of the film, and I have no idea what he's talking about. So I am equally at the edge of my seat awaiting for Tony to come back and let us know who has joined Last Chance Charlene. Last week, we all met up in Redwood and took some photos and got ready to get some posters and other marketing material out for this film, which we will be shooting over the summer. Super excited about that. And he's back. Tony, man, you love these cliffhangers.
Goodness gracious. I don't know what you heard, but I was kind of teasing out this idea that we had
We're waiting for that.
You're waiting. Okay, so you're going to actually have to come back to our Zoom. That's right. Our Zoom tonight is going to be happening. I'll put the link if you're watching live. It is this really cool actress who I totally geeked out. Talked to her for an hour and a half yesterday about what we are doing. And she's on this really well-known TV show that people who were born in the 80s who watched in the 80s and 90s would know. So if you want to find out who that is, you got to come to our Zoom meeting tonight and learn about Last Chance Charlene and hear about this iconic actress that's going to play the mother of Last Chance Charlene. So if you're watching live, I'm going to put the link in the comments and you can join us. But I'm really super excited. We're making a film, y'all. One thing at a time, one decision, one move at a time. That's all I got for you. So click that link if you'd like to come and learn about that at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard. Okay, so with no further ado, I am going to bring in someone I haven't talked to face-to-face in over 30 years. Can't believe we found each other through Twitter, I believe. Let's welcome to the show our special guest, Mihoko Imai.
Yay, welcome, Mihoko.
Hi, guys.
Mihoko.
Thank you for having me.
So, okay, how are you feeling about this? Is this kind of like a trip that we have not seen each other since 2nd and 3rd grade?
This is so trippy. As Christina said, this is my very first podcast, so I'm a bit nervous. We interpreters don't get much attention usually, so it's great to be here, and thank you for having me. And so wonderful talking to you, Tony, for the first time in 30-something years. It's so amazing.
It's so cool. On the screen, if you're watching on the screen, you will be able to see our picture from Mrs. What is that? I forget. Is it Miss Feldman? Who is it? Miss Maisel?
Oh, I think it was Mrs. Menzel. Miss Menzel's class.
No idea if she's connected to Idina Menzel or not, but you can see Mihoko's at the top left, and I'm right underneath you. Look at that.
Oh my god! I was gonna say, where are you, Tony? Oh my goodness, this is so precious. Mihoko. We have the same haircut now.
Exactly. This was way back in 1982, 1983. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Quite some bangs back then.
Oh my gosh. You're so cute. You're so cute. All right. So before we get into like the business, I just have to like ask, like, when you think about like I always would say my best friends from 2nd and 3rd grade, Mihoko and Raul.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Raul?
Raul Garcia. Yes, I do remember him.
If you try to find Raul Garcia today, it's like there's a million of them. So Raul Garcia from Illinois, Edgar Allan Poe Elementary. If you're out there, I would love to reconnect.
That's amazing.
I know. And it was a cool school. I mean, they named the school after Edgar Allan Poe. They, made us read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe books and stuff. That was really cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have any other memories of our friendship from that? This one thing I don't know. Is this my kid memory? I remember going to your house and eating good snacks. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of one thing I have.
I remember going to your house too. Yeah. We had Twinkies or something. I remember meeting your dad. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it super warms my heart to have
so heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, it gets all the feels kind of full circle. You had this special place in my life when I was in elementary school, and now we're reconnecting and we're talking about this passion that we have for the film industry. Exactly. So I'm going to kick it over to Chris. And by the way, before Christina asks her first question, tell us where you're from. Give us your full name and anything about yourself. Yes.
So my name is Mihoko Imai. I am an interpreter, Japanese English interpreter, who specializes in film and entertainment. And I am calling in from Tokyo, Japan. So it's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Tokyo.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Cool. All right, let's jump in, Mihoko. So we love to hear your origin story. We know you started Edgar Allan Poe, which is incredible. So how do you go from there to becoming a Japanese English interpreter. Let's hear your origin story, please.
Right. So from age 1 to 10, I spent in the United States, and that is where I built, I suppose, my language skills or my English base. I returned to Japan when I was in 1986, when I was 10 or 11 years old, and I've been here ever since. Went to college, and after graduating college, I joined the film industry. I joined a film distributor and worked my way across 3 film distribution companies, working in what they call acquisitions, which means you go to all of these film markets and film festivals to pre-buy or buy distribution rights for the Japanese territory, which means a lot of traveling, a lot of deal making, a lot of script reading, because back in those days we would have to pre-buy even before the films were completed. We would have to kind of judge alone on the script alone and see how commercially viable a film would be. And then we go to, for example, the American film market or the Cannes Film Festival and so forth, and talk to our sellers and make these deals. And that's what I'd been doing. That was a large part of what I've been doing for 10 years. And then in 2009, I kind of transitioned into interpreting. And so that is my Instagram account. Yes. Thank you.
And you have been with so many people. If you look on her Insta and her Twitter, you'll see her with Martin Scorsese, Benicio del Toro, Johnny Knoxville. I think one of my favorites is like the Johnny Knoxville picture. You're like, he's like waving and you're like over here underneath his eye.
He was a big guy.
So cute. So yeah, we talk a lot about how people get into the industry, and you were in the acquisitions and distribution, and I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast about that whole world, because I'm very interested in that as someone who's just about to embark on his first feature and really looking into what that looks like. I'd love to talk a little bit about, I guess, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
When you think about that, Mihoko, what would you say to communicate to filmmakers about what you learned during that time? What could we be thinking about? Because you read scripts, you were helping films get into theaters. What kind of things did you learn along the way that would be helpful for our filmmaking audience?
Yeah. What stories grabbed you?
Yeah. Oh. Well, to give a few titles, the screenplays that I utterly fell in love with were like Brokeback Mountain,
yes,
$1 Million Baby. The last script I remember reading in my corporate experience was 9, based on the Fellini film, which was so wonderful. I think, as cliche as it sounds, it does have to have a universal theme that anybody can empathize with, like a story or a theme that anybody can empathize with, regardless of cultural background. But that being said, English films do travel better than films in other languages. So in that respect, if you're in America making American films, you do have a head start in comparison with the other countries. Sadly, it is getting harder for independent films to be distributed, even here in Japan. We have quite a robust independent film culture still, but it's getting harder and harder. And that's something that I want to, like, what do we do in this kind of environment? It's really so kind of sad, not to, sorry to end on a sad note, but yeah. I think about that a lot. How do we sustain our cultural diversity in filmmaking and film distribution?
The percentage of independent filmmakers who are living off their independent film is very, very low. And right. I think that is a wake-up call for someone like me. And maybe that's where the redefining of success or what a filmmaking career looks like You know, as someone who's making independent work at this point, I have to recognize like, okay, might, you know, hopefully this year, not hopefully, I will be making my first feature film this year. And maybe the success of my filmmaking career looks like, can I make a film every year, you know, at a certain budget that I can raise? And then at the same time, am I doing other corporate or commercial type work so that I could sustain myself and support my family and look at kind of the alternative as opposed to the dream of not everybody gets to be, you know, Mr. Martin Scorsese, right? That's not what everybody gets to do, but we have to kind of brave our own way, like we talked about earlier.
Indeed. Yeah. Redefining what success means. I mean, that really does resonate, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely.
By the way, you've got such a great voice, like for
Thank you.
speaking. I mean, what a perfect voice for translating and talking on behalf of all these people who come to Japan. Like, oh my gosh, how exciting is that? It
is such an honor to be able to speak on behalf of all of these wonderful, established people. So smart, so intelligent. I only hope to do them justice. So yeah, it can be nerve-wracking at times.
To add on to that, were you encouraged by someone else to get into translating, or was that something that you just naturally transitioned into?
It was half a natural transition because you do use your connections to get jobs in this field. Usually, translators, interpreters work through agencies, translation and interpreting agencies. However, in this field, the distributors or the film festivals will come directly to you. So you do need to have good connection. You do need to have had built a certain sense of trust with those people working in the industry. So in that sense, it was a natural transition. However, without the help of the many, I can't say the many because there aren't many people who would do this actually, but the few interpreters who have a much longer career than me have lent a helping hand trying to refer my name when they weren't available for a job. So it's been referral after referral. And I'm very thankful for those fellow interpreters who've given me a chance and who've opened doors for me.
Can you talk about, so universally, the job that you do is a very small niche of people, right? There's not a lot of people who are doing your niche work. So can you, I just talk about like, what does that mean for you? Is there sustainability? Like, does that mean you could do this forever and there's not a lot of competition? Like where we talked about independent filmmaking, there's so much competition and not a lot of people living off it. And then do you foresee yourself staying in this for a long time? Or are there other things that you're curious to do in the film industry?
There are other things that I'm also curious to do, but I haven't kind of solidified this yet. As for interpreting, I do hope to do it long term. However, you can never rest on your laurels because everybody wants to do this. Everybody likes famous people, first of all. Everybody wants to do this, and there are only about, in terms of Japan, English interpreters who work in Japan in this field constantly. There are only about 10 people who do this in this country. So that's a very small pie that you have to stay in. So you really have to treat each job as sort of a test or an audition of sorts. You really have to build trust one job at a time. So that's what I'm always thinking about when I take on a job. You have to be really well prepared for the assignments that you do so that you don't mess up. Although you're never, ever perfect, which I suppose you don't have to be in this field to have to struggle with perfectionism. But it's always a struggle with me. Like I'm never completely satisfied with what I've done. But yeah, building trust is, I think, the most important thing. Yeah.
I think that's a universal piece. Sorry, Christine. I was going to say, like, all of us listening and watching this industry, the relationships are so important. Talent, being good at it is super great too, but you have to be able to know how to handle relationships and have people trust you. And there's a lot of, Christine, I've talked to, like, even in our Brave Maker community, whether it's volunteers or whatever, that, if someone isn't trustworthy or doesn't follow through with their word, it's not easy to want to reconnect with that person because trust is so foundational.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Mihoko, if you could tell us, what does that look like, being really prepared for a job, and then what does the job entail, like from beginning to end? What does your title look like?
So in terms of preparation, I also teach at an interpreting school, and this is what I usually tell my students. So I usually say the rule of 80-20 or 90-10. So for any interpreting that you do on the job or on the set, if that were 20, then the remaining 80 would be preparation. So your job as an interpreter is to prepare, first and foremost, to prepare. Sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 90-10, sometimes it's 999-1. And I'll give you an example. Those are rare, actually, 999-1. But I would, to give you an example, when the distributor came to me to be Mr. Scorsese's interpreter, I was so nervous because, of course, it's Mr. Scorsese, and he's done tons of films, which fortunately I had seen almost all of them at that point. But and this was for Silence, which he had spent 28 years trying to make. And finally, he's coming out with this film and introducing it to the world for the first time in Japan, because it's, of course, about a film about Japan. And I remember thinking, why did they come to me and not all of the other interpreters that have been doing this for decades? So that propelled me to really thoroughly prepare for the assignment. So I remember starting maybe a month in advance, or maybe it was even more than a month in advance. And I first read the script, read Silence, the script, read the original novel in Japanese and English.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's preparation, dedication.
Yeah, looked at, watched through all of the, not all, but many of the interviews that he did, because there's so much, even just on YouTube, there's so much of his clips. So watching all of those, reading Scorsese on Scorsese, which is this book where he talks about his career, reading about him talking about the neorealism Italian films, because I knew he would be talking about that in interviews, and reading about him talking about Japanese films, because the scariest thing about him is he knows more than anybody about film and anything and everything there is to know about film. So you don't know where the conversation is going to go. So I do remember reading up on what he has said about Japanese films in the past, because of course all the Japanese journalists are going to be asking about that. Yeah. And of course he did talk about his being influenced by Kurosawa and Mizoguchi and Ozu and so forth. So so that was, and also I had to study up on the cast that were in the film as well.
Wow.
So that was my preparation.
I love, I'm going to put in the chat as well, Mihoko's Twitter picture is this really sweet picture of him leaning into you. Like, what? Talk about that moment. Can you share anything about that moment?
So this has to do with how we usually interpret. So there are two forms of interpreting, very broadly put. It's simultaneous interpreting and consecutive interpreting. Consecutive interpreting is when you wait for the speaker to end his speech or his portion of speech, and then you interpret. And then there's simultaneous, which is while everything's going on, you're interpreting at the same time. Mm-hmm. And when you do press conferences like this in Japan, whatever Mr. Scorsese says, I wait for him to finish, and then I interpret into the mic. Whatever everybody else is saying in Japanese, I have to simultaneously whisper into his ear. So he's probably listening there to a question from a journalist or whatever the moderator is saying at that point. Yeah, that must have been one such moment there.
Wow. I love that photograph. It really reveals the intimacy of the job. I mean, you're essentially their voice in their ears. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So you talked
are.
about being a little nervous, and do you ever kind of like fangirl out and freak out, and like how do you handle all that stuff? Who's some of
Oh
your
my
favorites?
God, for sure. So that never happens, almost never happens, because you can't be a professional doing this, fangirling all the time. But it has happened twice. It has happened twice. The first time was Benicio del Toro. I
Okay.
totally fangirled.
Understandable.
So that made me extra nervous because that was an assignment that I did in my first year, I think, after starting to work as an interpreter. So I didn't have much experience then. Yeah, that was, and what made me even more nervous was, so the guy with the white hair on the left side, the right side, is a super famous Japanese director. His name is Kaneto Shindo. And he was 98 years old or something at this time. Unfortunately, he passed away. He's kind of the father of independent Japanese filmmaking. And he's
amazing.
made 40-something films, I believe, written 90-something scripts. So he has had a proliferous career. And so this was actually Benicio interviewing him. And I had to sit between these two giants, completely, not knowing what to do, very, very nervous. But yeah, that was one of my very first fangirl and nerve-wracking experiences.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how fun. That's so fun.
It's so amazing.
So
yeah.
what other, like any other stories, just sharing from your experiences, things that you think, transferable principles, like you talked about trust and building this relationship and prep. I mean, prep is so important as filmmakers, as actors. We have a lot of tomorrow we're doing an actor workshop, by the way, and we'll talk about this at the end of the show today, but we want to help people be ready in this industry. I think there is something to be said about that whole concept of talent is important, but hustle is something that can beat talent. Because if you're good in talent and you take it for granted, there's somebody else who's going to work harder and longer to get ahead. And so, anything else that you would say about what you've learned about the film industry, being successful, maybe how you define it, anything else you want to share? We'd love those little tips and tricks.
There are moments when when you're interacting with these people and you see how they work when they come to Japan to do their promotional tours, and you see sometimes, I don't claim to know these people because you're together, you're with them for just a few days, but you catch glimpses of, oh, that's why this person has such longevity in Hollywood. And it's just like tiny little things, like Keanu Reeves is never ever late for an appointment or a meeting or an interview, and all of his, the people that surround him, his agents, I suppose, and personal assistants, I suppose, they really commend him about this. They really talk highly of him, that he's very professional, and so that's, but it's so important, I think, punctuality, being punctual.
Yeah.
So that was my impression of Keanu. I would say interacting a tiny little bit with Brad Pitt. I saw him as such a team player. He goes out of his way to say, give the interpreters here a round of applause. They're doing such a fantastic job. And he'll say thank you to all of the staff and the crew who are working on the promotion. He'll look at you straight in the eye when he shakes your hand and say thank you. He's very courteous, I thought, oh, what a pro, I mean, it's not just good looks and talent. It's just really being very professional and a team player.
Wow. Be humble, be polite.
Exactly.
Wow, this is beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. So, those were a couple of beautiful experiences, I suppose, that I had. Johnny Knoxville.
Cool. Look at that. He's tall. Tall guy.
He is tall.
Yes. Can you share that with us, Mihoko? What was like your most beautiful, memorable experience doing this job as an interpreter?
Most memorable experience. Oh, so many.
I know you've had so many.
But I would say it's really nice. Of course, you don't want to take up any space. I mean, you have to really be invisible when you're working
Uh-huh.
on the scene. But when you're allowed just a few seconds or a few minutes to to chat with these people, it's always nice to be able to say, I've been such a fan of your work, all the way back to such and such, film or title. And it's such an honor to be able to speak on behalf of you today, and so forth. I've been able to squeeze in those words with people like David Ayer, Ang Lee, and those
Wow.
are really nice moments that you get to have, tiny little moments that you get to have with the people who you translate for. Yeah.
So cool, Mihoko. Well, this has been such a treat and so fun. And as we are approaching the Oscars on Sunday, I thought we could transition and do a little chat about that. And we have a resident movie critic, Marcus Robinson, who's going to join us. So everybody welcome Marcus Robinson to the show. Marcus, this is Mihoko. She's in Japan right now.
Hi,
Marcus.
nice to meet you.
How are you?
Marcus,
Nice to meet
we're going to do this little 2-minute movie review, and then we're going to just do some chatting about what we think and some predictions. So this is your big intro, Marcus.
Okay.
So Marcus's website is moviesmarcus.com. So Marcus, give us your 2-minute review, and then you're going to chat and give us some predictions, and all 4 of us are going to chime in.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So the movie that I watched was a short film called Two Distant Strangers. It was written and co-directed by Trayvon Free. It's about a black man who finds himself reliving the day he's murdered by a white cop. It's a time loop movie, but it's definitely elevated into something more profound, as you could probably tell by the synopsis. And Free and co-director Martin Desmond Rowe do a great job of transforming this Groundhog Day trope into something that feels brand new. I believe this film works on a couple different levels here. The first being the face value of the nightmare that it is being a black man trapped in a continuous loop where the end result is always death by cop. But the second one is the most profound, in my opinion. It's the idea that we as audience members are watching the same black man die over and over and over again for the 32 minutes runtime. This is the element that most aggressively parallels what it's like to actually wake up to the news of another black man being slaughtered by the cops. And while it's a different day and a different black body, the story that we're watching is the same. And I think that's the point of this movie. That's the reason it should win an Academy Award, and that's the reason it should be mandatory viewing for any person who is fighting to end police brutality. And it's on Netflix, so go check it out.
Yeah, nice. And it's a short
Really
too,
nice.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
I would love to get these filmmakers on the show. So if anybody knows them, let's get them on the show and chat. All right, so Marcus, let's talk. Let's hear some of your thoughts and predictions. I'm going to bring up the Oscars website, and we just have some time to go over a couple. So you get to
I have
guide
my
us
list right here.
Got your list? All right. Mihoko and Christina, let's jump in. What we think some of our predictions are going to be. So let's start. Just because this is how they list it on the Academy website. We got actor in a leading role. We've got, are you ready for this? We've got Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman, Steve Ewan. What are you thinking?
Ooh.
All right, so I think it's Chadwick Boseman. I mean, I don't.
Me too.
I don't. They're gonna give it to Chadwick Boseman, even though I think he lost at the BAFTAs. recently. I think it was.
I don't think wasn't it just yesterday? Did they already give that one away yet? I didn't think they had a word
The
of that. Did
BAFTAs
they?
were a couple weeks.
Did they?
Weeks ago. The British
Okay.
Oscars, I guess. Yeah. So I think he lost that one to Anthony Hopkins, I believe, for The Father.
Okay.
Which is great, fantastic. Actually, Anthony Hopkins was my favorite performance of the year in The Father. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. Chadwick Boseman. It's.
What do you all think, Mihoko? What do you think? Did you meet any of these actors here?
Pull up that list again. Unfortunately not. No. It's no. But I would like to meet all of them. Yes.
Yeah. I think people want to honor Chadwick's memory duly, right? And he was great in that film, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It's such a, for me, it's, you feel torn because this person isn't here anymore, and it was amazingly, and if he was here, he probably definitely would win it. But I think people might not, because there is that weird tension of him not being present. But I feel like it's the right thing to do. He should win it because of who he was as a person and his legacy and his humility, as we talked about earlier. Mihoko was saying, like, he also, like Brad Pitt and Keanu, as you were saying, people talk so highly of him, and you want someone like that to win. Yeah. All right. Next one. Let's do actor in a supporting role. We've got Sacha Baron Cohen, Daniel Kaluuya, Leslie Odom, Paul Raci, and Lakeith Stanfield.
This is the weird one where it had Lakeith versus Daniel.
They're
both supporting roles, apparently. Daniel's going to win it because if you saw the movie, he's just fantastic. He transforms into the character, and he's going to win it. He's been sweeping all the awards up until now. So yeah, if you're betting on it, he's going to win it.
Mihoko, Christina, chime in at all?
I'm on board with Marcus. We're I and I with that one. I'm on board with you for that, for sure.
I have, honestly speaking, I have not seen these films yet, so I can't give a fair judgment.
No worries, that's fine. That's
good.
Yeah, I love that film, The Judas and the Black Messiah, so much. It's I agree with you, Marcus, because of the sweep of Daniel, but I feel like Lakeith was, in my mind, almost the stronger.
It's hard.
The stronger performance because of the duality he had to play with that. So I almost want to go for him. But sometimes they also cancel each other out because people see two actors from the same film and they go, let's give it to someone else, because they don't want to choose between the two. So then if those two were to cancel it out, people might go for Paul Raci. I don't know. I'm not.
Is that what you think, Marcus?
True. I'm like in love with Leslie Odom Jr. So yeah. I loved him. I think he did such a great One Night in Miami, and he did like the soundtrack. And I think we'll get to it later, but yeah, if I had my pick, I don't think he's gonna win, but obviously.
All right, let's do actress. We're gonna make these lightning round here. Actress in a leading role. We've got Viola Davis, Andra Day, Vanessa Kirby, Frances McDormand, Carey Mulligan.
Hard.
That's a hard one. I loved Andra Day.
Me
but
too.
It's gonna be Frances or Viola Davis. I love everybody in this. I think Vanessa Kirby had the best female role of the year, but she's gonna get no love because of who else was in the movie. But yeah, I want to go with Andra Day. But if you're betting on it, probably Frances McDormand. I think this whole thing is Nomadland's to lose. Like it's Nomadland versus the world, on this one. They deserve it. Anything that they get, I'm all for it.
Nomadland was actually the one film that I have seen at a film festival. It was just so wonderful, so wonderful.
Yes,
and Frances McDormand was amazing. Yeah.
I think Viola Davis should get it. That's my thought. I think Frances McDormand was amazing, but I think Viola's performance, and she won the SAG, which is also a predictor of this category. Frances McDormand already has 2 Oscars, so share the love. I don't know. I feel like that's going to be hard for people to give her another one. That's just a thought. But I do think Well, I'm getting ahead. I was going to say I do think Chloe Zhao is going to get the directing award for Nomadland. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yes. She deserves it. She deserves it. She cemented herself with The Writer, which is just an amazing film. But the way she films, her cinematography, we push forward. Cinematography, they're going to win that too. She's an amazing, amazing director. And I think she's only like 3 feature films deep, something like that.
This is her third.
She's
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, she's amazing.
I saw both her first 2 films at Sundance. She's got a very different style, and she's the first Asian woman to be nominated, right? And this, especially in this culture, in our world, when there's so much Asian hate and ridiculousness because of coronavirus and all these things that have been perpetuated by racism from our country, I'll say, it's a really perfect and beautiful time to see her sweeping all the other award ceremonies too. It's pretty cool.
And,
Sorry,
and for immigrants too, because a lot of directors right now, American, are not immigrants here. She's an immigrant here, and I think she captures the Nomadland and The Writer. She goes into these kind of outlier sections of America and really, really shows them and invests time into them.
So cool. All right. For time, we're going to go to actress in a supporting role. We have Maria Baklova for Borat. We have Glenn Close, Olivia Colman, Amanda Seyfried, and Yoo Jung-yoon from Minari. Actress in a supporting role.
Yeah, so Minari, Yoo Jung-yoon is going to win it. She won the BAFTA. Usually that's what I go.
And the SAG too, I think.
And the SAG too. She's fantastic. Her character is written fantastically. She's a fantastic actress. So yeah, I think she.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Mihoko?
I'm just happy that Asians are finally getting
Yay!
Yeah, it's so wonderful.
It's so cool.
It's finally happening.
So I heard that Yoo Jung-yoon is considered the Meryl Streep of Korea or something. She's kind of like super well known. I don't know. I think I heard that on a podcast. But how cool to see that breakout for her. And that movie Minari, if you have not seen, listeners and watchers, go see it. It's such a great movie about America and immigration and our immigrants and being. What does it mean to be American? Like use that film with Nomadland together. Oh my gosh, they like almost kind of like speak to each other. It's really cool. All right, final thing. I know there's so many categories we could talk, but let's talk about the best picture. What will be the best picture of the night? I'm going to bring that up. The best picture nominees are The Father. We have the Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
So, like I said before, this is Nomadland's to lose. While I think there's other movies that I think that touched me harder, Nomadland is going to win. It's a profound work. It will put Chloe on the map to a wider audience. And it deserves to win. I will not be upset if it wins, and it'll probably, if they count any kind of vote, it'll probably win by a landslide. Like it won't even be close.
Anyone else want to add in any thoughts? We're getting.
I haven't seen enough of them, and I feel intimidated because it's Marcus, so I'm not going to contradict him. So I
don't know. I think Chloe. Why am I blanking here?
Zhao.
Chloe Zhao with Nomadland, definitely with director. I don't know. I think Best Picture could be an upset. I really do. We could be super surprised because Chicago 7's got a lot of he. Black Messiah, that picture definitely has a lot of importance and cultural relevance. It's so hard. I'm going to be tuning in with bated breath to see who does. And at the same time, I want to say, viewers and listeners, awards are, it's so weird to talk about awarding the best artist, but this is part of our culture. Bravemaker, when we do our film festival, we never do awards because we don't want to put artists in competition with each other. We want them just to enjoy making the art and talking about it. But this is a part of our culture, and it's just fun to talk about. It's a marketing ploy. We know it sells advertisements. We know, but it launches people's careers too, right? Like this is what helps people move forward, and you got to roll with it.
And it points you in the right direction to watch these films. I need to see these films, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're right. All right, cool. Well, that's all the time we got. Marcus, this was so great. Go to his website, moviesmarcus.com. Our special guest, Mihoko Imai from Tokyo today. Go follow her on all Twitter. She is Mihoko_Imai. And on Insta, you are something different. I think I had that earlier. You are
Mihoko_on_Insta. Yeah.
There we go. All right. We're going to do our quick ending to our show. We're going to do a quick go round. So everybody get this in your mind. All four of us are going to do quick. Your favorite thing of the week, whatever it is, now's the time.
Brave faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave faves.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. This is so funny and weird, but it's right by me. I'm gonna fave my Hydro Flask, you all. I bought 3 of these things. Okay, I have one in my car, one in my office, one at my bed. It helps me drink more water. That's all I gotta say. Having a good water bottle helps me drink more water. These things are expensive, they're like $30 or $40, but it makes me drink water. That's all I gotta say. Get a Hydro Flask or get a good darn bottle of water and drink it. All right. What you got, Marcus? What's your brave fave for the week?
My favorite thing of the week is I got vaccinated. I got my first shot, so I got vaccinated yesterday.
Yeah, baby.
Thing. I don't know if you can see it, but
yes, yeah. Get your
That's my favorite.
Better
get your
vax. I love it. Get vaccinated. Mihoko, what you got?
While we're talking about the Oscars, this is a bit outdated, but I belatedly last night The Edge of Democracy, which is a Brazilian documentary that was nominated for the Oscar Best Feature Documentary in 2019 by Petra Costa, and it is wonderful. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix. I'm sure it's on Netflix in the US too. I would urge you to see it.
Can you repeat that one more time, the name of the documentary?
The Edge of Democracy.
The Edge of Democracy. All right, on Netflix. Awesome. Yes. And Christina.
Yes. So if you need a little fire, a little inspiration, my brave fave are the classics: Fist of Fury, The Big Boss, Into the Dragon, Way of the Dragon. So yeah, get into little Bruce Lee. Let his fire touch you and get ignited for your projects. And I just love applying his intensity to like everything you do. It's so beautiful. That's my brave fave.
Bruce Lee, and it was his 50th anniversary, you said, right? Last week or something?
80th last year,
80th.
2020.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, get in it. Those are the brave faves for the week. And say thank you to Alexandra Todd, who was in the comments and was highlighting some of these things that we were talking about today and that Mihoko was saying. So we're super glad that Alex was with us today. Thanks to Jessica Musgrave, one of our producers. And as always, we are so grateful to you all who support us. We are a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit. We cannot do this work without you. So go to our website at bravemaker.com, sign up on our buzz, which is our e-news. Go to bravemaker.com/buzz. And if you want to drop a donation in there, that super helps us to do this work, to keep connecting with creatives all over the world, to keep helping people make their creative dreams come true. You can send a text to 44321. It's on the screen if you're watching. The word Bravemaker, and you'll get a link right to your text, and you can give a tax-deductible donation. We are super grateful. Thank you to my childhood friend from Edgar Allan Poe Elementary School. We got to keep talking to you, Mihoko. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, super cool. Marcus, thank you so much. Marcus is going to join us every month to give us 2-minute movie reviews. Go to moviesmarcus.com. That's Marcus with a K. And we end the show every week. Don't go away, you two. We'll take a picture with our slogan, Brave Stories Change the World.
And you are the story. Goodbye, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.